Welcome to today's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Chris Lerma, President of AP Equipment Finance. Chris, thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks, Jesse. Thanks for having me on your, what do you call this? Your webinar, your video, your video
Yeah, we've been doing these weekly,
podcast.
these weekly kind of fireside chats. I guess sort of like a podcast too, with just industry leaders, just to kind of learn more about themselves and their organization. So,
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, and
so
I've listened to a few of them, so they're very informative. So that's a cool idea.
that's great. Thank you. Always appreciate feedback, both positive and if there's things that could change.
You're doing great, man.
So for the few people in the industry who might not know you, Chris, I guess first of all, congratulations on your new appointment to president of AP. I know you've been there
Yeah,
for what 14, 16 years?
16 years now. Yeah, so I'm an industry lifer. I'm still young. So but I've been in this industry my whole career. I've been with AP my whole career. So I started my first real job out of college. So yeah, I mean, 16 years ago, who would have known? Like I would have been with the same company in this industry that, coming out of college, I had no idea what it was. It was like,
Right, right.
when I first got introduced to or interviewed for AP, it was like, equipment leasing, like what is like leasing buildings? Like, what do you mean leasing like equipment? And it was kind of like, all right. So I knew I wanted to be in finance, coming out of college. And I knew that I didn't want to work for like a big bank, a big company. I wanted to work somewhere where I could really learn,
Right.
not only be focused on one part of the business, but kind of learn how to like all different parts of the business because I always wanted to kind of run my own business at some day. So that was kind of like, my aspirations like coming out of college. I got introduced to AP and it was, man, I think I was maybe the seventh or eighth employee there. We were originating maybe, I think 18, if that, maybe $15 million in volume a year, not a month. We're doing that we're surpassing on a monthly basis now. But yeah, so I was hired on as a credit analyst and I spent most of my career just focusing mainly on the credit and risk side. In 2013, I think it was around 2013, I joined the board of directors at AP. And that's when I really started to like get more involved in other parts of the business and started to play a bigger role in the strategic direction of AP. And in 2014, I started up our syndications division, which
Okay.
has grown today to be a pretty big part of our business. And we're syndicating out about $160 million of paper now. And recently, as you mentioned, I was just promoted to oversee all the operations at AP, which I think it'll be a good transition for me. Like I mentioned to you, I started out on the credit and risk side, but I've kind of been involved in all different parts of the business. And I feel like I have a good understanding, not, an expert in every part of the business. I don't even feel like I'm an expert on the credit and risk side, but I know enough about all of our parts of our business to see kind of, the pieces of the puzzle kind of come together, which is pretty kind of cool, I think. I mean, I look back just even like 5 years ago and I felt like I knew what our business was all about, but I think about it today and I'm like, wow, I really didn't know anything. And I'm still learning, And
Yeah,
fortunately,
yeah,
we
of course.
have a really strong senior management team, a young kind of very hardworking senior management team that I could lean on. And our senior management team on average, I think, has been with our company for like 6 years. So, the executive group and the senior management group, we've been, we're seasoned not only in the industry, but, with our business. So I feel very fortunate, to work for a company where, I do have the people already in place to kind of lean on. And I feel fortunate to work for a company that's growing, that's got a great culture.
Yeah.
And also like, I feel very fortunate to be in an industry that I'm actually really passionate about, and I know you feel the same way. It's a
Yeah.
bummer this year that we can't travel. We don't, we're not able to hang out and see each other at conferences. It's a big part of it, but I don't know, maybe it's just because I haven't been in any other industries, but I feel fortunate. I talk to my friends and like family. I'm like, I actually enjoy my company. I like what I do within my company. And I really like and I'm passionate about our industry. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's, I think that's very unique, right?
No, and that's fair. And I would encourage the younger people who are watching this to go take a look at your LinkedIn profile. I was browsing it the other day, and you can kind of see where it's like, okay, 2 years credit, 2 years, all these different
Yeah,
things, and it just kind of shows your ascension throughout the organization. And I think that's excellent in a way to, because I think
yeah,
a lot of people see that where they're like, oh, what's equipment leasing? And you go to one of these trade shows and you're just like, why are these people double my age? And you kind of ask some questions. It's like, is this the right market for me to be in? So
yeah. There was a little bit about that, but I mean, I do like the entrepreneurial kind of, hardworking, culture, I guess this industry has. It takes a lot of grit, to really make it. So, yeah, and it's a small group. We all help each other out. There's a lot
yep.
of friendly competition. So I've always felt like this industry was right for me.
No, and I'm trying to think. I know the last time that we saw each other in person was actually at your AP leadership event, where Team West was able to take out Team East. So was it Lerma, Embaum, Jennings, Johnson took out Boyer, Elliott, Grimshaw, Cohen? So we'll just
That
take our
was,
shot at.
yeah, it
We'll
was a
take
close
a shot
match. I
at
don't know
those
if you want
guys.
to talk, if you want to spend it like just 1 minute giving an overview of the AP leadership conference. You could do that, and I could talk about the trip.
If you want to go ahead, man. Any shots we can get at those guys is good to go.
Yeah, so what Jesse's talking about is every year AP, we put together an AP leadership golf retreat where 8 of us go out, and we switch it every year from East Coast, West Coast, and we do a 3-day golf trip, and we kind of split up the group into East Coast teams, which Jesse was mentioning, and the West Coast teams, and we have a 3-day kind of tournament style competition, which is always fun because it's like we get out, we all do business with each other, right? So we get out on the golf course and we have this trip together, and we actually do talk a lot about like our industry, how our businesses are doing, different ways that we're doing things, different trends that we see. At the same time, we're having fun. And at the same time, it's actually a competitive,
Oh yeah.
it's a competitive tournament. We're all like waking up and warming up on the range, and every year, we want those bragging rights, and this year, and the West Coast team has bragging rights, so I'm happy about that. And this year's trip is postponed because of the pandemic, of course, but we have another year of bragging rights, right?
Fair enough. So I guess what was that, Chris?
So that was a fun trip.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially for someone who I typically only play golf with leasing friends and clients.
Right.
So getting into that level of competition with the way that those guys were, I'm like, okay, got to step my game up a little bit. But I guess speaking of the pandemic, Chris, like, what did that do to to AP? Like, how'd you guys manage your way through it and have a great year?
Yeah, well, as far as just getting our employees, transition to remote work, I think we did a great job. I mean, honestly, like a couple of weeks, maybe a week, 10 days before lockdown, it might have been a couple of weeks. Chris Enbaum kind of had the foresight to see that this could be a big thing, and this could hit soon, and we could all be, working from home, and if we're not set up right, this could be a big disruption to our company. So we had like a few meetings. I remember this was like right after we got back from our golf trip in February, about making sure that we had the right hardware, making sure our networks were set up, making sure everything was running smoothly in the cloud. And I remember talking to other funding sources at that time, asking them, how are you preparing? Are you guys all set up to work remote? And they're kind of like, I think so. Why? And I'm like, really? Like, we could be all working from home in like 2 or 3 weeks. So, and then like fast forward like a week later, those same folks that I was talking to were calling us saying, hey, wait, what are you guys doing again? You guys have been thinking about this for like over a week. Yeah. So we were we planned ahead, and a lot of our employees are already set up with like laptops. Our front end system, our back end system are pretty much in the cloud. And the way kind of our company was set up and how we do our daily activities, it's all being processed. It's all being logged through our front end system like Salesforce. So all of our activities are tracked in there. We have our chat function. So everything was really already being done the day to day within Salesforce, and we're 100%, almost 100% digital too. So we're all on, eDocs, and all ACHs. The only paper that we really handle are physical paper titles.
Right. Okay.
So in general, I think compared to most, it wasn't a big disruption for us. What we did was we thought this pandemic was going to be a lot worse for us, so we actually laid off about 10-12% of our staff, and that was focused on the operations side. So we let go of some operations folks. Then we transitioned to work from remote work. And at that same time, we're getting hit with all these payment reliefs, right? For a couple of wave of those customers, about 20% of our customers asked for deferral. So we're trying to figure out how to process those. And we have our own portfolio, and we manage 6 other portfolios. So we're trying to figure out this consistent, efficient process to get these payment reliefs through. So we're dealing with that. We're short-staffed, and one of our industries, a package delivery industry, we lend a lot to FedEx contractors, just exploded, a month or 2 months into this pandemic because of all the surge in online, ordering. So we're scrambling around, trying to deal with a surge of applications. At the same time, we're a little bit short-staffed, transitioning to work from home, and then dealing with payment relief, contracts or requests coming in. So it was a little crazy, but we were lucky that we still had business coming in, and a few of our segments that we play in actually benefited from this pandemic. So it was kind of it was a lot of work, but at the same time, we're all kind of just happy that our industries weren't falling apart and we were doing well. So yeah, that was a pretty crazy 2 months. And then once we got through the processing all these payment reliefs, that settled down. And then we all got used to working from home, and then we staffed back up. It was, a relatively smooth, good year for us, actually.
Well, and then you decided after that to move offices from.
We did. Well, we delayed it, but yeah, we were in the middle of an office upgrade. So, we never really made it back into the office. We still only have about 3 people in the office, just grabbing mail,
3 people there,
physical titles. So we're still.
I know.
Working remote.
Because I know another thing that you and I have in common, besides being, I think we both entered the industry in the same year.
Did we? So I entered in 2014. I probably went to my first conference around I remember my first conference. It was a conference in Vegas. I don't know if it was still NEFA at that time, but man.
Yeah. Because I just made, this year makes 16 years for me in equipment leasing.
Yeah, so I remember that first.
Yeah, it was probably a UAEL back in the day. Yeah.
I was 23 years old. You throw me in Las Vegas at NEFA conference, I'm just like, what's going on?
Trial by fire, and you know what? You survived, and you're still here.
I barely survived.
So I know I built and finished building a new house in the middle of the pandemic, and you moved from California to Oregon. So that's right always
the pandemic. So I got out of California a month before lockdown, which was a good move on my part.
Nice.
So yeah, it was. I've always been a Californian. I lived in. I grew up in Southern California, and then once I started working for AP, that's when I moved up to the Bay Area. So I lived in the Bay Area. I lived in San Francisco for 12 years, and then went back to LA for a couple of years, and then made the full-time move to Bend, Oregon, which is in Central Oregon for those of you who don't know. At the middle of January. So it's beautiful. I mean, it's a big change. You know, I've always lived in cities, like living in LA and living in San Francisco, and then coming and moving to like a small resort town in like Central Oregon, which everyone here is
Right.
like, oh, it's a huge town like in Oregon. I'm like, this is tiny, you know? But you know what? It's a good change of pace. It's a good quality of life. There's a lot of outdoor activity here. There's great golf. There's, you know, you're 25 minutes to the ski mountain. There's a lot of good biking and running trails. So if you're very outdoorsy and you like beer, Central Oregon is a place to be. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when I moved from like the New York tri-state area to Arizona, obviously Mexican food's better out here, right?
yeah,
But like the rest
yeah,
of the food, it's hard to replace that. I guess the culture that you get living in a city environment to,
yeah,
not to say that I'm in a suburbs, but you know,
yeah.
it's hard to
It's
replicate that.
different. Yeah, but you know what? It's for being a small town, Bend has some good food. It's very
Nice.
diverse in its cuisine. We get a lot of that from Portland, right? So, and there's a lot of Californians here. There's a lot of, you know, people from Oregon, people from big cities here. So with that comes, you know, the restaurants and, you know, the shops. So it's
Yeah, obviously
pretty,
I haven't been to Portland anytime recently,
yeah,
but the last time I was there was a very eclectic food scene. But yeah, it was really good.
yeah, and we have some of that here in Bend, Oregon. So, but yeah, so we
So,
and we're in a small town. We have 85 employees here, so we're like big for this
okay,
town. We're becoming known in this town. And yeah, just to like take a step back, we started the company, or Chris Embaum started the company in 1998 in the Bay
right,
Area.
okay,
About 4 years ago, we decided to move the operations to Bend, Oregon for a number of different reasons. It was hard to retain talent in California. It was just hard to do business. It was expensive. We had a sales office here in Bend, so we knew about the Bend area. And Chris actually grew up in Oregon, so he knew of Bend. So just naturally, we had people just asking to leave California and to move to Bend and asking if they could keep their jobs. So we're just like, oh, you know, light bulb went off. Like, wait, why don't we just move the company, you know, to Bend? Which was a tough decision because most of us, all of us on the C team, so it's myself, Raquel O'Leary, who's the chief people officer, Nick Fong, who's the chief technology, chief marketing officer, Chris Embaum, and myself, we all grew up in California, lived our whole lives. So that was it was hard for us. Our employees were like, okay, great. Like half of them are like, we'll move to Bend, Oregon. We knew it was right. But for us as the C team to like really make that commitment and know that we're going to be living in Central Oregon and moving out of California was a big deal. But we made that and we never looked back. And it was like, oh my God, we should have done this sooner. Because
well,
again, we have
and that's a testament to you guys as a leadership team. I mean, because it was the hardest for you, and you guys led by example and said, "Hey, look, you know, we've been here all our lives. It's time
kind
for
of.
us to
I was
move."
like the last one to leave. Like everyone else kind of moved up there, and I was like, I was living in LA, like you know, on the beach half the time, and living and commuting up to Central Oregon. But I knew when I moved back down to LA, I knew eventually I was going to have to be, you know, where headquarters was in Bend, Oregon. So you didn't have to like twist my arm to make the move here to a beautiful, you know, beautiful town like Bend. But yeah, so that happened. And about last November, we were actually acquired, not last November 2019, we were acquired by Tokyo Century. So that was another big change that's, you know, happened to AP in the last couple of years. We've always been, you know, independently owned. You know, management and a few friends and family have owned the company up until then. So Tokyo Century is a $50 billion, you know, finance, you know, company in Japan. So again, they acquired us in 2019. So we're about a year and a half into the relationship. You know, it's been great. They've been very supportive of the way we do our business, you know, our growth
Right.
initiatives. And, you know, it's nice to have like, you know, a huge parent company with deep pockets, you know, to support your
Right.
growth and not have to really think or worry about like capital. So it takes that kind of pressure out of it. And now it's like, okay, now we just focus on like the growth and not worry too much about like how are we going to be funded? And is there capital to like grow? Or are we going to be able to take advantage of like these opportunities that come up?
Right.
So that's a big change for us in the last couple of year and a half. And like I said, that the partnership's been great so far. They've been very supportive, and not much has changed on the ground. If you were to ask our employees before and after, like what has changed, I mean, most people would say nothing at all, other than growth
Right.
targets are
Right.
increasing. But yeah, it's been great so far, and they've really been good about allowing us to maintain kind of our culture, and the way we do things.
Well, and that's good. And I know during a lot of those mergers and acquisitions, that's what they always say, right? It's like, don't worry
Yeah.
about it. Nothing's going to happen. No disruption. Then all of a sudden it's like, bam. So that's good to
And we
hear,
were
man, because you
very,
guys,
sensitive to that during the whole,
huh,
when we were selling the company, we wanted to see this thing grow. It wasn't like, okay, like let's see what happens and then, and then leave, after a couple of years. And we all kind
right.
of, all the senior management team, we were very transparent about this whole like sale process, which helped. I mean, we were telling, most companies when they go through this type of a sale, they kind of tell a few people, they don't want to disrupt, they don't want to upset or like cause any questions within the organization. And we're very upfront. I mean, to the whole company, like, hey, we are looking to sell the company, bring on partners, and this is the reason why. This is what's going to happen. Here's what we're looking for. So that really helped, I think, with there was no anxiety through the organization. It created a lot of trust, which is how we operate on all levels with complete transparency, create trust. So that helped out a lot. And so everyone was very aware that, we were looking to continue to be at this company and take this thing to the next level. We just needed a partner to help support us on the capital side.
That's great. And that transparency, I'm assuming will lead to long-term loyalty from the employees too, which is
Yeah,
at the end of the day, what you want, right?
right.
So, besides moving in 2020, you also got married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what is a COVID wedding like? I mean, to me, I think of one of those reasons where, hey, I just saved, I saved some good chunk of money because I didn't have to invite everyone.
That is one of the benefits for sure. I don't want my wife to hear that right now. But she's working, but yeah, that was great. But we'll leave it at that. But no, it was. We had originally planned to have a 150 person like wedding here in Bend, Oregon. This was obviously planned. We had originally planned it in June. This was pre-pandemic, and then pandemic came. We're like, okay, we'll postpone it to like August. Things
Right.
didn't get better, and then we're kind of like, all right, well, like let's just narrow it down to like 50 people, 75 people. Things didn't get any better, so as time went on, we're kind of like, all right, like we're either not going to get married this year, or we just need to stick with the city or the county ordinances and just have a 20-person wedding. So we decided to go forward and just have our immediate family
Right.
celebrating with us, which was still great. I mean, it was, besides the money part of it, I mean, just the stress of not having to deal with.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
And yeah, so it was kind of a bummer for my wife because she like was one to really dream of like the big wedding. I'm a guy. I'm kind of like, yeah, it'd be great, but like I just want to have like a
Right.
good time. I just want like family here. I just want to be married. Um,
So
so
I'll make sure when I meet her for the first time, I won't bring up when you're gonna do a part two of your wedding since you didn't have a big one the first time.
yeah, don't bring that up. No, but it was great. And actually, like, even though she was bummed out, we both talked about it and we look back and you're like, oh my God, it was like an intimate, like memorable
Right.
day for us. And we're just happy that we're at least able to celebrate with, our family. It was a bummer we
Right.
didn't have our friends there because, when else do you have like all of your like friends from different areas all and family all hanging out in the same kind of like, the same town in the same event. So that was a bummer about it, but what are you going to do? No, you just got to roll with it.
Nah, the way I look at it, it's kind of like what you said, man. You can focus on yourselves and not worry about what everyone else is thinking the whole time, which is fantastic. All right, Chris. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time here. So from all the independents, I know we kind of went through,
Yeah.
the reasons why AP has been as successful as they've been. at the end of the day, why do business with AP over the other independents that are out there?
Well, I think we're very customer focused, right? I mean, our slogan is the power of personal. So, I mean, we really care deeply about, our end user relationships, our vendor, our manufacturer relationships. And what's really made us successful is listening to what customers want and providing them, tailoring our services to what our customers want. It seems very simple, but like you'd be amazed when you like look at other, not just in finance, but other businesses, and it's like, why are you doing it that way? And it's like, well, because of this. It's like, does the customer want it that way? And it's like, well, I think so. It's like, no, like, everything should be driven off of what your customer, whether your customers are end users, vendors, or manufacturers. So, we really do, kind of pride ourselves on listening and providing what our customers need. And I think what also makes us, we didn't, have the time to jump into this, but what makes us unique as an independent finance company is, we really sell ourselves as more than a finance company. And what's made us successful is really forming relationships with manufacturers, vendors, dealers, and saying, hey, AP is not only a finance company. Yeah, we're a great finance company. We have competitive rates. We're all digital. We have systems. We're fast. We're efficient. We're friendly. That's great. But what sets us apart is we will help you sell your equipment. So think of us as an extension or an external sales division. Like, we want to market your inventory. We want to build collateral with you. We want to sell your equipment. We want our sales reps calling into markets which you've never been able to penetrate, which maybe you didn't know existed. And we want to tell them about your equipment, not the financing. We want to lead with the equipment. We want to say, hey, here's a truck. It's available. We could deliver it to you. Do you want it? Yes. Okay. By the way, we could wrap the financing around it, right? So the customer's like, amazing. Like, you found equipment for me and you're financing it. And then we take that sale to the vendor and say, hey, here's a customer. We just sold your equipment. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, you basically like yeah, with your sales arm, you're pushing equipment for us, with very little overhead. And for us, all we ask for in return is, we just want to control the financing. Like, we want to control the inventory. Like, we want to work with our partners and tell them what a certain industry segment needs, what equipment they need, what the trends are. And we want our equipment partners to order that equipment for us and allow us to control it, allow us to sell it and market it. And we have some pretty cool systems that have the capability of really, penetrating a market and getting equipment exposure out to these small little fragmented industries. So that's the real power of like our model.
Yeah.
And that's what we're continuing to build on. So I think that's what makes us really unique in our space and our ability. And that's just part of our culture and thinking from the top. It's like, we got to think outside the box. Like, we're a finance company. Great. Like, you just want to be like any other finance company. Like, oh, we have technology. That's great. We're fast and efficient. We're scalable. We have digital docs. Like, think beyond that. Like, what other services can you provide? How are you going to get that premium? Because at the end of the day, if you're just like a finance company, you're just pretty much like selling a rate. There's relationships in there, but
right
at the end of the day, and the way technology is going, and our industry, everyone's kind of going to be all caught up with the same technology and the same speed, the same system. So it's just going to come down to pricing unless you think of other ways, other services, and other value adds for your customer. So I think that's in a nutshell kind of what makes us unique.
No, I know you guys have always been on the leading edge of technology, and that's the best way to do business.
We think so.
The technology is the customer. Yeah. No, I mean,
we're on that same.
I've known Chris. I think I've known Enbaum just as long as I've known you, and that's kind of been something he prides himself on, and it makes sense watching you guys grow. I mean, you have the technology in place. You have customer focused salespeople and C-level people and a good culture. So makes sense watching, you guys be as successful as you are, Chris, and looking forward to what you're going to be able to do from here. You got big shoes to fill, and I'm excited for it, man.
I am too. I'm always up for a challenge.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. And look forward to hopefully seeing you in person sometime,
Yeah,
sometime this year.
hopefully later on this year on the golf course.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks,
All
Chris.
right. Thanks,
Have a
Jesse.
good one.
Thanks for having me on.